Okay, my name is Taylor Russell. This is my persuasive speech on Roundup Ready crops, and this is my audience since he's the only person in the house. And the paper he has in his hand is the visual aid I provided for him, as I didn't have any poster board paper, so therefore he got his own part of the visual aid. Agriculture is an industry of never-ending change. In recent years, farmers and agriculturalists have gone great lengths to ensure that production can keep up with demand. One of the way these changes have been made is by doing genetically modifying organisms, or GMOs. Through this process, we can make crops defend themselves against disease, insects, and chemicals. When specifically talking about Roundup Ready crops, they have been modified to be on the defense towards chemical Roundup or its active ingredient. Glyphosate is a systemic herbicide and the active ingredient in Roundup. In most Roundups, it is anywhere between 48 and 52%. It was created by Monsanto in 1970, and it was done so in order to prevent broadleaves from growing up around crops. However, corn itself is a broadleaf, and so it would damage the crop, thus slowing growth and preventing and causing later maturity. There has been a belief that the chemical in Roundup causes sickness. This was announced by the World Health Organization, International Agency of Research on Cancer, that it could cause cancer when ingested or found in the air. It has been proven that more chemical is put on lawns and golf courses per square foot than in the last 10 years that any farmer has put on their fields. First of all, it would be too costly for the farmers to put as much fertilizer on their crops as we do on our plants. Before herbicides and fertilizers, crops had low growth, weeds could take over the crop, therefore there would be no yield, and the yield was in a lower percentage because the crops themselves were not pushed to their full growth potential. After the endorsement of herbicides and fertilizers, crops began to become larger, more fruitful. Weeds were killed, allowing more crops to be grown per acre, thus encouraging a larger yield. Many people would say that a higher yield equals less hunger. This can be true, as many of today's farmers grow sweet corn or soybeans, sugar beets. All these crops are later produced into edible products. Sweet corn itself is an edible product, where soybeans are later turned into things such as grains and other products so that they can be ingested, and sugar beets are later turned into sugar that is used on almost a daily basis. A higher yield also meant it could meet the demands of our producers, such as feedlots, or, as I stated before, sugar factories. Due to the increase in population, there has been an increase in demand for things such as meat, crops, and fibers. In today's agriculture, less chemicals are used as there is genetic engineering on the plants. Therefore, there is lesser need for chemicals to prevent weeds and other insects. Therefore, by using less chemicals, there is less runoff into our lakes, creeks, and streams. Genetically modified organisms are made by, there is a double helix, which is the formation of the DNA structure. On the double helix, there are introns and extrons. Introns are those of unnecessary information. Extrons are what we call the genes. Exons are what are coded to make the proteins in any organism. In order to add the Roundup Ready exon into the DNA strand, an intron is spliced, and the Roundup Ready exon is added into the DNA strand. From here, the DNA strands are replicated and proteins are made. Therefore, once one stalk of Roundup Ready corn has been grown, the kernels inside it become its seeds, and those seeds have the genetic DNA of being Roundup Ready. Many people show judgment towards GMOs without ever doing any research, or having their own state of mind. Research is important in order to be an educated advocate. By doing research, you find yourself learning more about the product for yourself than you do by what others think. Being educated about GMOs, you find that there's more to it than just chemicals and all that. It actually helps decrease hunger and prevent others from, by being an advocate, you prevent others from obtaining the wrong knowledge about a product. And it is never bad to ask a question. Asking questions is how many people learn, and therefore gives you the chance to learn a new thing. You also have to be willing to learn and think outside the box. If people weren't thinking outside the box on a daily basis, how would we move forward and reach better things for the future? There has been controversy about this subject for years, but who really knows what they are talking about? I hope from what I have said, each of you find yourself more educated on the subject of GMOs and will hopefully be an advocate for them. I will also ask if you could pass on the information that you have learned so that others are knowledgeable when talking or debating on the subject. Thank you.